and I think it worked out. So, hello again to the opening ceremony, and let's have a quick look at the agenda of today's opening ceremony. So we will start the official opening by Marta Gutierrez, the director of the GIZ Division Global Policy Governance Cities, followed by Carmen Vogt, head of the section Cities, who will set the strategic frame of the October 2022. After the official opening, Lior Steinberg, our special guest, will give an inspirational talk on transforming cities for a livable future for all. And finally, we will round up the opening ceremony with some closing remarks by Carmen Vogt. And now I'm happy to give the virtual microphone to Marta Gutierrez for the official opening, followed by Carmen Vogt. Thanks, and hello, Marta.
Hello, thank you, David. I hope you can hear me well. Always the one big question. Yes, thank you, David. So dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues from commissioning ministries, from partner organizations, dear GIZ colleagues from around the world, welcome to today's event, to the opening ceremony of the Urban October GIZ 2022. As many of you know, the Urban October was already officially launched by UN Habitat on Monday, but we do have a certain tradition at GIZ to host the Urban October, and so here we are, 5th year in a row with this opening ceremony today. As David said, my name is Marta Gutierrez. I am the Director of Division for Global Policy, Governance and Cities, and as such, I am absolutely thrilled about the motto of the Urban October in this year. It's called Mind the Gap, leave no one behind and no place behind. And I think this issue of leaving no one and no place behind is actually the common denominator of all global agendas. I think all global agendas actually must contribute to that. And as you wish, cities are also basically the actors that are common to all global agendas. All global agendas have to be implemented at a city level. So that's why the connection of leave no one behind, no place behind, and Urban October is such a powerful, or will send such a powerful message to our work. There has been a lot of political support for urban agendas. As many of you know, although in Glasgow, the world fell behind many commitments, there was still a strong backing for cities and for the role cities can play in climate change issues. And not long ago, as many of you know, the G7 has actually launched an urban development track, meaning we have all the G7 working on the issue, not only during the presidency of Germany, but also of common presidencies in the near future. So we should take up the political backing that we have right now for the urban agenda. But I would also like to invite you to use the experience and knowledge that we have in this room, the engagement and energy that we have in this virtual room today, to have very good conversations on clever solutions for making cities more resilient and more inclusive, and also strengthening the partnerships, because this is very important for our way forward. Generally, I'm very proud that GIZ is hosting again an Urban October, and I would like to thank all of you, the ones that have made Urban or this event possible. I would like to thank all the contributors as well. They're very exciting. There will be exciting inputs and exciting sessions, and I think that will really give us a push in order to continue our joint agenda. So with this, I would like to round up the opening ceremony, as you say, and ask Carmen Vogt to come in and give us some framework notes in order to set up today's conversation. Thank you, and over to you, Carmen.
Thank you very much, Marta, and dear colleagues. A very warm welcome from my side to the Urban October at GIZ. I'm very happy to see that many colleagues from Germany and abroad are attending this event and also sharing their time with us. In my view, the Urban October is a wonderful format for knowledge sharing and networking, but also an inspiration for future-oriented action and implementation. The upcoming weeks are full of events, activities, and walks related to urban development and topics that have to do with livable urban spaces and a sustainable future. I would say our future, the future of our kids and next generations. So the sustainable development of cities is, from our perspective, more relevant than ever, especially in times of multiple crises. And so cities and urban development has become a key topic at GIZ, at our commissioning ministries, and the politics on national and international level. And why is that? I would like to highlight three aspects today. So firstly, cities are a driver for change and have a transformative power. Their density enables integrated solutions. We all are looking for integrated solutions to better build on win-win situations. But these integrated solutions for scale are provided by cities, while sustainable and resilient infrastructure and services can also be provided to be on a larger amount of people at lower costs. This is one aspect. Another aspect is urban issues always touch on at least two umbrellas that must not be understood in opposition to each other. And I'm talking about infrastructure and governance. Basic needs such as access to housing, water and sanitation, mobility, health, social infrastructure are always related to decentralization processes, municipal management, participation, and of course, financing. So we can only achieve sustainable development if we address both. And especially today, when democracies seem to be threatened by wars, it is not enough just to build technical infrastructure. Policies on sustainable urban development must also be successfully anchored. And I would also add the capacities of local organizations have to be strengthened more and more. And thirdly, my third point, when speaking about livable cities for all, the urban population, the citizens are or should be at the center of all interventions. And this is even more important when we are talking about destroyed cities and local infrastructure, which has to be built and rebuilt. 3 weeks ago, the G7 ministers responsible for urban development have assigned cities to a future-oriented infrastructure investments track for sustainable development in their final development communique. And I see more interfaces, especially with socially just transition and alliances for climate to build safe and resilient cities and communities, of course. So these three aspects I just highlighted describe the importance of sustainable urban development. And based on my long experience, to me, one main success factor for good sustainable cooperation is the co-creation and testing of new innovative approaches by trustful and very strong partnerships of institutions and civil actors, but also between departments, our commissioners and with our commissioners and implementing organizations. We are very close to international processes, events and political dialogues, which we want to make greater use of, with the goal to increase our joint forces or efforts and impacts. And with the two major multilateral international events this year. Marta already mentioned the German G7 presidency and the establishment of the new urban development track, as well as the World Urban Forum. In Katowice, urban development received greater attention and the demand for joint action is really high. So I would say the Urban October is the ideal occasion to join forces, to communicate good practices from our partner countries and co-create local solutions for sustainable urban development. I wish all of you inspiring, fruitful discussions during many sessions planned in the coming weeks. And now, please let me introduce our inspirational speaker today, Lior Steinberg. Lior is urban planner and founder of Humankind, an agency for urban change, and he's also a TEDx speaker. He describes his work, and this is really very touching. And this is a kind of quotation, helping cities to look beyond functionality and planning urban spaces that makes people smile. This is a wonderful quote and a great attitude, Lior, to address urban living. And I'm sure that we will leave this opening ceremony with a smile as well. A big virtual applause, and over to you, Lior.
Thank you very much, Carmen. I hope you can all hear me. That's as always, the difficult transition, but I got a yes, so thanks a lot. I just, first of all, want to thank you all for joining here and investing your time in this morning to join this meeting. And I also think it's amazing. I was in Katowice and it was a huge event with so many people, which is the old way we used to do events. And now we are having the new way, right? Only 2 years ago, it was almost impossible to imagine such an event online, offline, hybrid, which reminds me again how adaptive animals we are, humans. We adapt to circumstances so easily, which is quite amazing. And if there is something that I hope you will keep after my presentation is this thought that we are adapting so easily. Sometimes change seems to be such a difficult thing, and yet it is humans prove again and again how adaptive we are to change. So I will share my screen. I hope it will work. That's the second transition. Yeah, I guess it works. And I will start. So just a little bit explaining who I am. My name is Lior Steinberg, and although my last name at least sound very German, I'm actually from Tel Aviv, Israel. And I grew up really close to this beautiful beach. And although it is a wonderful city to live and grow up in, it is also a nightmare in terms of transportation. The public transit is not really working, to be honest. There are no bike infrastructure. And therefore, when I was 17, I was getting my driving license and sitting in traffic, just like everybody else. I was very angry on traffic without realizing that I am a big part of the problem because I'm creating traffic, just like everybody around me. But later on, I moved to Berlin, and I had my hope, oh my God, I'm going to live in Europe finally and cycle. But very quickly, I discovered that cycling in Berlin is not that nice. There are some bike lanes. I call them imaginary bike lanes because they are just paint on the sidewalk and they disappear and appear again and again. I have to admit that Berlin is improving and improving, but still that wasn't a very easy way to go around the city. And therefore, also in Berlin, I just did what was easy. I used the U-Bahn, the metro, right? And this is the easy way to get around. And I loved it. It was a wonderful way to get around the city. And then I moved to the Netherlands. And although a lot of people from the city hall here in Rotterdam will claim that this is a big problem, this picture really makes me happy. Seeing all those bicycles thrown around the streets. It just shows how normal it is to have bicycle. And since I moved to the Netherlands, I only cycle. I don't own a car. I hardly use public transportation. And I even don't walk to the supermarket, to be honest, although I live above the supermarket. I use a bicycle even for 100 meters of a trip, which is a bit ridiculous, but it's my way to become Dutch. And it's not only me, it's everybody. You walk around in Dutch cities and you see everybody cycle. You see children cycle alone sometimes. You see youngsters, fashionable youngsters cycle. Even the prime minister cycle, and I like the nonchalant way he also holds the apple while cycling. So back to myself, I'm the same person. I didn't change in the last 10 years, but in different places, I add different behaviors. And it's not that when I moved from Israel to the Netherlands, I became, or to Germany, I became suddenly, I love the earth more, or I decided to be more sportive. It's just that the way the environment around me changed my behavior. And it is not only about mobility, it's about everything in our life. Our environment decides how we behave. Imagine growing up in a street where you can just play with your friend. Imagine what it means about your development, about your mental development, about knowing how to behave in society. Are you growing up like this, or are you forced to the edge of the neighborhood in a gated playground where you see only people that look like you, young children, normally also very unmixed environment where everything is defended and you don't really learn about reality? Or are we growing in or living in an environment where we can just go out of our house and sport a little bit in a nice and free manner? Or are we building cities that are quote unquote sportive, but they are actually quite ridiculous places where we are spending money and our time to go to sport? Are we building more and more green places where people can just walk along? This is a park that feels like a forest in the city center of Rotterdam. Or are we going to keep just planting trees around highways to kind of greenwash the way we develop? And this is something that urban planners, politicians, decision makers, we all decide. And this is very important because we feel we just decide the shape of cities, but we actually decide how children grow up. We decide how people are moving around, how people are going to work, to school, etc. And I think that this is something that, of course, as an urban planner, I think about a lot. But in recent years, I think more and more people thought about it because we were all stuck at home, sitting, if we were lucky enough, sitting in our balcony, looking outside and realizing, oh my God, what the hell have we done? We designed streets that are meant only to move free pill from A to B. Suddenly we realize that our children cannot play outside, that we cannot meet our friends because there is not enough space. I think it was the first time that actually non-professionals started to realize, wow, something is a bit wrong in the way our streets are designed and our cities are planned. And I was very lucky because I discovered that I have a beautiful garden outside of my house. It's a communal garden that volunteers are managing. And I got to go there almost every day. And I lived there already for 3 years without knowing that 2 minutes from my house, I have this beautiful garden. So that was my luck during Corona. And I read there a lot of books. And in one of the books, I found this amazing quote that I think summarizes all those slides that I just showed you. We are the only species that lives in zoos of our own design. Think about it. We have the ability not only to experience the public space, we can also design our zoo. And this is an amazing quality that humans have in comparison to animals. Animals are forced to live where we are built in the areas we are building for them, and they might be very unlucky, or they might be maybe more lucky because we created better environments. But we can make those decisions on ourselves, and yet we keep making, it seemed to me, the wrong decisions, right? I mean, this is the view from where I'm sitting right now on the left side. I'm sitting in the center of Rotterdam, and this is what I'm looking at. A giant intersection. It's gray. It's not safe. You can never imagine someone just laying there on the floor, taking off their shoes and closing their eyes. It will be a dead mission. I mean, you will never do it. The image that we see on the right side, those are the places that truly make us happy, that make us play with each other, meet a friend, fall in love with someone maybe, relax, read a book. And yet we build more and more places that look like on the left side. And you will tell me, okay, Lior, this is very nice. You show a sunny picture on the right side and a rainy picture on the left side. And actually, it's not really a choice. You don't really choose between road and park. Every place in the city has its role. And so we need roads and we need parks. And it's not really a choice. But I would claim it is, of course, a choice. And I have an example from the city of Groningen. So this is the city of Groningen, I would say 1.5 hours from Germany in the northern part of the Netherlands. I think you get to Leer if you just take the train for 1.5 hours. And what you see here is a wonderful park, and it's also one of the busiest bike tracks in the world. More than 10,000 bicycles cycle here every day because it is the way to the university. It's a university town, student town. And until the early 90s, this is how this park used to look like. It was a road. It was a distributor road, a main road leading cars to and from the city center. And the city decided to make a change, but they didn't know if people will approve it. So they put it out for a referendum. They asked the people, do you want to close this road and make this road a park again, an historical park, return it to the way it was before the war? And the referendum, I would hope, would give a very high percentage to turning this road into a park. But if you look at the results, you see very, very close results. Only 51% of people wanted to turn this road into a park. And this park is right now one of the most beloved parks in the city and one of the most beloved places. And if you would ask people if they want to turn this park now into a road, I promise you that maybe 95, 99% of people will say, no, leave this park, we love it. Don't touch the park. But you look at those results, the 51%, only 51% that wanted to make the change in the early 90s. And it bothers me because this is the problem we are facing every time we're trying to make a change in the city. We know that people will love the park more than the road, and yet we see so many people that are against. And yeah, Groningen was lucky, but it might have been 51% for the cars, and then we would never get this beautiful park. And I would claim that this problem is because of lack of imagination. People, we have the ability to imagine, but we don't have the mental and the time to really experience how a future could look like. If we only had a way to experience the park and only then to vote for it, maybe we will get different results. And I think that people need to have the right for imagination. And we see this all around the world, those changes that in the beginning faced this huge opposition and later become sort of a consensus. You see it in Groningen that was lucky enough to get this 1%, it's only a few hundred people more that voted for the park, basically providing this wonderful environment for children, elderly, students, etc. We see it also in Ljubljana that in 2007 decided to close more than 10 hectares of area in the city center from private cars. When they decided to do it, only 40% of the population was in favor of the move. 10 years later, 97% of people want to keep it that way. Imagine the change. Experiencing a city center without cars changes our minds. We finally can experience how this environment feels like and only then we can make this decision. We also have it in a smaller scale. We experienced the same in Tel Aviv in a project I worked on. The city just closed off a street for cars during the pandemic, and people were very angry because they didn't feel any positive effects from this change. They just lost their parking spaces, but didn't get anything back. People were so angry, started to send angry emails to and letters to the municipality demanding to get the road back. Within 2 weeks, we proposed a new design for this space, allowing people to really, really feel how it feels. And this is, of course, only an image. The image didn't help to convince anyone. We knew it. We had to build it. Within 2 weeks, we built an intervention. Quite cheap, but just a place for people to sit down with children. And the moment they experience it, as you can see in the pictures, we have more people in reality in the place than we even had in the animation we made in Photoshop. So now, when the city came to the residents of the neighborhood and asked them, what do you want to do with the square? Do you want to bring it back to the old way, or do you want to do something else? The majority of people voted to keep it that way and expand, remove more and more space from gray and car-oriented space to places where you can sit with your children. Because just like parking, there is never enough place for children to play. And once you start providing this space, you want more and more space. So I want to just come back to the quote. We are the only species that lives in zoos of our own design. And we are also the only species that can reimagine their own zoo. Think about the powerful power that we have. So let's imagine together better cities fall. Thank you.
Wonderful, a big applause for Lior. And you can see the hearts and all the applause you're receiving. Thank you very much for this really inspiring and insightful talk that has even increased my great anticipation for the Urban October this year. And Lior, the right of imagination. I think this is really a wonderful empowerment, and I think this we will also put in the context of the diverse events during the upcoming weeks. I think this is really something worth to keep and to build on. Thank you again. Before closing our today's opening ceremony, I would like to have a brief look on the event program together with you. So this year, 27 events will take place, of which many events are contributed by different GIZ departments, from the global department, the sectoral department, various regional departments, and also from partner countries, from Serbia, Egypt, Palestine, Jordan, El Salvador, Ecuador, and so on. Sorry if I missed one of the countries, and also contributions from the commissioning ministries and many partner institutions. I'm impressed about the variety and creativity of events and formats and topics. The event program shows the broad range of relevant urban topics to be discussed. Of course, the climate crisis and responses, but also municipal financing and resource management, mobility, and so on. And coming back to the motto, to the official theme, 6 of the events have relation to leave no one and no place behind, discussing, for example, housing, informal settlements, inclusion, and so on. And I'm especially looking forward to get to know concrete examples and places. And I would like to highlight also the virtual field visits in different partner countries. I think this is something very interesting. And also, of course, the in-place tours in Bonn and Frankfurt. So you can now register for one of the city tours. Spots are limited, so rather be quick. And yes, I would like to invite you all to have a look to the Inspiring program. You can find it on the website, citytransitions.global, and you can always ask David Stoffel or Andrea Renger. They always give advice or support. Lastly, I would like to thank all contributors for the great commitment and the work behind all the sessions, and a huge applause again to the organizers of the Urban October. They are doing a great and very professional job. I'm closing this session, wishing you a wonderful day, and keep in your mind right of an imagination. Thank you so much.